Welcome. This is episode 16 of 2020 Vision Behind the Scenes. I'm Crystal Clear, and we're going to talk about streets. Okay, so we're going to talk about Streets. Streets was a very interesting track. Believe it or not, I started Streets when my brother used to live at his house, and that was almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago was when the track The Streets was created. So I made this beat at my brother's house. I guess that would be what epicenter 2, where we call it the studio. So I made the beat. And that was during the time I was just doing like as a hobby. Come back from Georgia, make a beat, go back to Georgia. Just chill out, don't even think about music too much. But for some reason, when I created Streets kept coming back. Just like Revelations, the song Revelations on the Last Christmas album on Volume 5. You want to check out that video. Like I said, you'll see it up there on YouTube. But Streets was one of the songs that kept coming back. And it was crazy too, because unlike Revelations, where I created like 10, 15, 20, 25,000 versions of it before the final product release of that, I only created that track once. And for years, when I was in my hiatus for like 6 years, and I was at work, and for some reason that beat kept coming to my head, and I'm like, I don't even make music no more, but that beat kept coming into my head, so it just stuck on me, like as if the Lord said, look, you're gonna bring out Streets, and you don't want to, but you're going to. So I'm like, nah, whatever, Street, whatever. So then when I came back to doing music with my brother at the end of 2018, Streets kept coming back into my head. And I'm like, I don't even have nothing with Streets. And like when I created Streets, it was just a beat. Like I wasn't writing at the time. My brother was doing all kinds of other things with like other projects and stuff like that. The people who did work with my brother at the time was FPC. He wasn't doing anything with it, so. But it just kept coming back into my head. So then one day, I was like, I think I'm gonna write to it. Because since it keeps coming back into my head, I might as well be the one writing to it, because it's just not gonna leave my head until I get this down on paper and on digital. So after about 8 years, I asked my brother, I said, yo, I want to recreate Streets. So he goes, because nothing goes without his direction, because this is his label. And he goes, okay, yeah, go ahead, let's remake Streets. So I started remaking Streets. And the crazy part about it never was supposed to be on the 2020 Vision album. Better yet, if it was up to me, and bless my wife for her pretty much like knock me upside my head about it, I probably would have trashed Streets. And that Streets would have never came out, period. It would have just been done. Don't. But God kept putting it in my head. So the concept about Streets was about struggle. Now, people who don't know me, my name is Crystal Clear. I'm clearly talking to you about struggle. That's probably one of the things I always experienced. I always heard, songs about partying, and which is cool, because I used to like to go to parties and hearing good music, dance and stuff like that. But I'm always was a writer about struggle. If you looked at my profile on southrec.com, that's why I said I'm a writer of struggle. So like when I wrote Streets, I was thinking about the concept of struggling in the inner city. Now, I was living in Savannah, Georgia at the time, and I was going back and forth to Jersey, but I also, work in the Philadelphia area, in Camden, and I'm in the vicinity of New York City, and I just wanted to illustrate the things that the inner city youth was struggling with, and but I wanted to do it cleanly. Like, I didn't want it to sound like it was glorifying the violence in the what was going on in the cities and in the hoods, because I mean, not disrespecting rappers that do, but it was just not that. I'm not a gangster rapper, so I can't talk about selling drugs and glorifying. But I can be the guy who witnesses the stuff that goes on in the city. I worked in Philadelphia for 16 years now, and I've seen a lot of things that happen in there that would make your soul black, And I wanted to just describe it. I wanted the people in the city to see from my perspective, to take a look at themselves. And it's just not only in the cities, it's just in like anywhere in the suburbs, because like I said, it was struggling in the rural streets, city streets, the burbs, what I mean? We're all going through it. So it didn't just what happened in the inner city, it happens everywhere. So when I wrote to it, I was listening to the beat and I'm writing to it. And I'm not saying I'm a gifted artist as far as writing lyrics, but I wanted to make sure that you understood what I was saying. I'm very anal as far as making sure that you hear what I'm saying. So I kind of was thinking about streets as a poetry, as a spoken word, like you hear when you go to a poetry sitting at a nightclub or something. So I'm writing to it, and I had struggles with it. I couldn't get my thoughts right, because when I first wrote it, shout out to my girl Yashira, because I showed her some of my first material. She was like, no. so then I was like, all right, I gotta get it right. So I'm going through, like I said, I work in Philadelphia, and for some reason, when I was on the streets of Castor and Aramingo, down in the Kensington, Port Richmond section, sometimes in the Tioga section of Philadelphia, every time I kept driving by there at work, the Lord was interjecting things for me to experience. You know what I mean? So it just seemed like I'm like, Lord, you can't show me this when I'm at home. He's like, nah, because you got to see it to feel it while you're writing it. So, like I said, so when I was writing the streets, I was writing my experiences in what I saw, not what somebody else saw, what I saw. When you hear my vocals, you see the lyrics on the movement episode. I believe it's 34, right? 34 or 33, you'll see it. But anyways, it's when you listen to it, it's my experience. So I seen somebody die on the streets. You know what I mean? I seen drug dealers on the streets. I actually did see experience murders on the street. And it's just it was just in the drugs and seeing our inner city youth going to prisons and stuff like that, and seeing kids younger than me, 10, 11, sometimes 19 years old, dying out there. And I wanted to show that you die for that drug and just take you to a land that you don't want to go afterwards. Because again, we're Salvation Records. We're a Christian faith organization, so we believe in heaven and hell. And dying in your sin, it says you're going to hell. And I wanted these kids to understand that you have to not make these rash decisions and end up in the land that you don't want to go. So when I wrote it, that's what I was trying to describe. Now, behind making the beat, while I was making it, my boy, shout out to, the anonymous soldier out there, he doesn't want to be named. He was like, I gotta get up on it. And my boy didn't even do music. But the way the lyrics was, because my boy was from the streets. He lived that gang life. He lived all that. And he said, I got to get up on this because it's talking to me in my spirit that I have to do this with you, because I want to let people know that, like, you got to understand this is wrong. The way life is wrong. So the Lord blessed me and him through this. And he ended up being the intro and the outro with the Bible verses on the song. So while I was listening to that, the Lord was showing me a different version of Streets. He was like, you think you want Streets this way. I want it this way. So when I was listening and writing the Streets, I was thinking about like it being like kind of like a theatrical scene, like you hearing the sirens of the cop cars and the gunshots. So it ended up evolving into something organic. And at the end of that project, when my brother listened to it, we did the final mixes on it, he even told me, he said, I think Streets is your best project you ever did. And it touched me because, remember, I was going to trash it. And I'm glad that the Lord didn't let me do it. So it just goes to show you, when you have a direction in your life and you think you're going to go one way, the Lord might say, no, go this way. And you might want to listen, because through that way that he's showing you might alter somebody's thinking and keep them from making the same mistakes as a lot of people on the streets. So when you hear Streets, just know that this is real out there. And just also know one thing, if you didn't catch up on, I didn't even speak on Streets. The whole time I was singing like it was like a hymn. So when you listen to the vocals of Streets again, listen to how I'm saying it, because I'm not talking, I'm singing. And I'm hoping I'm singing those into your heart. And to all the inner city youth out there, stop the violence. Because it's only going to put you in a place that you don't ever want to go, but you can't escape. So listen to Streets. Peace.
Therefore, just as through one man sinned entered into the world, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men, because all sinned.
Everybody's struggling on the streets,
Everybody's struggling out there. Nobody's excluded.
Could be rural streets, city streets, even the burbs. We're all going through it.
Yes, we are.
Just hear me out, alright? Yeah.
Alright. Yeah. Darkness blinded by the city lights. Illustrated struggles of the city life. Making daily choices either wrong or right. Added to the stress that's going on in eternal fights. You can either make it out the hood, man, or you can have it turn you to a slave. Or you can make some calculated moves that'll shift your motion fast and send you to an early grave. Just the other day I saw a man die. Still cannot get the image out my mind. Boy God must have shut his eyes. Death was coming for him. He was gone for he saw the signs. You think they have respect for the dead here? Look in the face as I stare. The cop tossed his body to the side like a piece of trash on the corner like he didn't care. That's how it is on the city streets. It's what it is on the city streets. While I'm rolling through the concrete, jungle over here at B.I.G. What's beef? Everybody throwing up them gang signs, repping the hood that they claim. It's funny they pour liquor when they die, saying rest in peace to alias, but do they know his name? Everyday life is a struggle, only getting minimum wages of a hustle. Relying on alcohol and dope, medical painkillers calling you cause you can't cope. Churches and liquor stores in every corner. So in life you got a choice. You can either take your burdens to the altar, or you can drown in sorrows and neglect your little voice. That's how it is on the city streets. It's what it is on the city streets. What's going on with these city streets? There's something wrong with these city streets. 1 day, 7 days of homicide. Got the tears, you made your mama cry. While she sees you in the courtroom, exited the prison cause you couldn't let it slide.
Let it go.
Potholes tearing up the vehicles. Hookers hanging up by the street poles. Being disturbed by the pimps. Don't care about your safety, they just wanna get that limp pockets. See it's money over everything, even your own soul. I bet you if the pimp had a choice, he would walk away with cash and leave your body dead cold. But it's the cold of these bad streets. People say it is what it is, but it bothers me. Especially when babies walk around with no parents by their side and they nowhere to be found. Fatherless sons carrying guns while trying to learn the ways of the man, but can't overcome the evil that's sprung. Make them die too young and led into the land of the damned. That will be done. But it's not only on the city streets. It happens often on suburban streets. It's going down on the rural streets. We're losing ground on the country streets. I pray to God for these city streets. It's too much violence on the city streets. Gunshots, no peace. Innocents catching their eternal sleep.
I have seen everything during my lifetime of futility. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in his wickedness. Do not be excessively righteous, and do not be overly wise. Why should you ruin yourself? Do not be excessively wicked, and do not be a fool. Why should you die before your time? Why should you die before your time?